Be prepared. That was the motto of the Boy Scouts. Jack had no other answers after checking the email on his wife's iPhone. He usually didn't look at anything on her phone at all, and she knew that very well, so she didn't bother to use any additional protection. After all, he was a Boy Scout. He didn't invade anyone's privacy. But Jack's wife was leaving town in a few weeks, and Jack was trying to remember the name of her hotel. She had told him about it before, but he hadn't paid attention and wanted to avoid an argument about why he didn't pay attention. These debates had become a bit more frequent lately. The trip would be their longest time apart since their wedding 5 years ago, and Jack had been thinking about doing something romantic, like sending flowers. After all, what better way to show the woman he loves how much he loves her than to send her flowers when she was several thousand miles away in the city of love, Paris? It was the city of love, okay? But he wasn't who she was going to love there. No, it had to be Ryan, who was also going on a business trip. After entering the password to his wife's phone, the date of their wedding, Jack found himself reading one of the non-work-related emails his wife and Ryan had exchanged over the past few weeks. They talked about walking along the Seine at night, then taking a boat ride on the Seine in the moonlight, and then making wonderful love all night. Almost as surprising as the affair itself was the fact that Jack's wife, Emily, and her lover, Ryan, exchanged messages using work email accounts. She should have known better. So did Ryan. Like Jack, Emily was in the international trade business. Ryan was a logistics manager at Emily's import-export firm. All three had conducted extensive supply chain analyses and major trade audits where huge teams of traders and logistics specialists had reviewed every one of the hundreds of thousands of emails generated or being considered for compliance proceedings. The story was always that one or two idiots had an affair, and the company executives then tried to figure out whether the affair had anything to do with the business, and, if so, how to limit the damage. The truth is that the reason Jack didn't pay attention when Emily told him about the trip and the name of the hotel the team would be using was because something strange was going on. Jack didn't know what it was at the time, but his instinct made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. 5 years in international trade, listening to suppliers lie and listening to partners scrupulously avoid lying by not telling everything, had sharpened his listening skills, and something was wrong. When Emily first told him about the trip, a very boring trade expo that would keep them so busy that they wouldn't even be able to enjoy the sights, she said this without looking at him at all and too flippantly. She knew that Paris was one of Jack's favorite cities, and they always talked about going there together because Emily had never been there. So Jack found her answer strange, but he didn't even imagine such a worst-case scenario. The email line he was looking at now was a stiletto stabbed straight into his heart. Why don't you just get rid of the Boy Scout, so we can spend more time together without worrying? Ryan wrote this last night. I feel safe with him, Emily answered. So why are you having fun with me behind his back every chance you get? You do it better. Jack had no idea what he was going to do at this point, other than forward all correspondence to his address and print out the email exchange on the printer, just in case. No doubt, as an experienced trader, his first instinct was to preserve the evidence. After printing out the emails and putting them away, Jack began to think. He definitely knew what he wanted to do. He needed to think before he hurt anyone. This thinking is what made him a good businessman. He was paid to use his brains, not his brawn, and he had to think about it quickly because Emily was out for a run and would be back soon. But before he could think, he needed to finish the mission and find a hotel. However, this would not be for sending flowers. He didn't know why he would need this information, but he just knew he needed it. Perhaps the Regent Cantades, close to the Paletta Congress where Emily and Ryan would be attending the International Textile Expo with the rest of the team, at least when the two lovers have some free time. Once he found the hotel, he had to quickly do a computer search on divorce laws in Virginia. He remembered some things from his friend's divorce last year, but it was always good to check. Adultery was grounds for divorce and could affect issues such as alimony and division of property, but the accusation of adultery also had its own nuances. One of them was condonation, finding out about the adultery and then voluntarily resuming intimate relations and continuing to live together was her defense. So he needed to get out of the house quickly, and there should be no confrontation. Not yet. He fully intended to hit her with complete shock and without any unknowns thrown into the mix. He was going to dominate the battle space for the rest of this marriage, which meant he would have to lie. Inconsistent with the Boy Scout law, but it was war, after all. It was Churchill who said, "Truth is so valuable in wartime that it must always be accompanied by a bodyguard of lies." Jack's lies would serve a higher purpose now. In any case, none of them were under oath. He went up to the master bedroom and began to pack his things. He finished quickly and placed his suitcases by the front door. He had almost finished gathering the important documents he needed: bank and credit card statements, 401k and IRA statements, car titles, pay stubs, mortgage documents, and Emily's latest student loan balance. When she returned from her run, he heard her in the kitchen. As he rose from his basement office, he decided to look exhausted and out of sorts. When he saw his wife, her shoulder-length brown hair was pulled back into a ponytail. She looked good. It's a pity that she was so disgusting in his eyes. He already knew that love was dead. "You know I'm going to Shanghai," he said with a grim smile. The color drained from Emily's face. Her blue eyes turned pale. "What? Shanghai?" Her shocked expression quickly disappeared. "Steve just called," Jack continued. "We have a shipment crisis with a supplier, and we need to inspect the products personally. Apparently, we just lost the quality control standards, the client is furious, and the entire supply timeline is in chaos. I'm going to be on the road for a few weeks, although I'll probably have the opportunity to stop by from time to visit." "Poor baby," Emily said with an appropriate expression of concern. "Maybe your company is hiring. I would prefer to go to your Shanghai." "I said Shanghai," Jack replied, and saw concern appear on her face again. But then she grinned. "Send me your resume. Maybe you have the right amount of experience for us to consider you." It was a joke. Emily's import-export firm ranked higher in the annual trade volume than Jack's. Then, perhaps with some guilt, she made a move as if she was going to hug him. But Jack turned and returned to his office before she could close the gap. The visions of him slapping her in the face were coming back, and he wasn't sure he could keep them under control. Back upstairs, Emily asked what he wanted for dinner. "I can't stay for dinner. I'll grab something on the way. Steve is going crazy and wants me to hit the road immediately," he spoke, bustling around the kitchen. Emily followed him to the door, looking a little worried as he grabbed his suitcases and headed for the door. She pursed her lips for a goodbye kiss. "Sorry, I think I may have caught a cold this morning. I have a sore throat. Maybe it's an allergy, but I don't want you to catch anything." Emily followed him to the car as he loaded it. "When will you be back?" "Probably not before Friday. We're going to Guangzhou after Shanghai. Then next week we have to go to Hong Kong." Perhaps he was becoming even more paranoid, but he thought he could hear the gears of her brain turning as he watched her avert her eyes, as if imagining how his absence would open up some unexpected possibilities for her. Waving goodbye, he backed out of the driveway. He hoped she would simply assume that he was busy with work and annoyed that he had been called on a Saturday. His acting couldn't handle much more at the moment, but he suspected that she was already planning to invite Ryan over. Jack drove until he came to a nearby shopping center with a coffee shop. Like most businessmen, he thought better by putting it down on paper. As he finished his coffee, he began to make a list of things that needed to be done. He paused for a moment to realize that he had never thought about reconciliation. That wasn't even an option. There would only be retribution. The only question was the degree of retribution. The ringing tone of his phone interrupted him. He didn't recognize the number. "Yes?" he answered impatiently. "Mr. Wilson? I'm Sam Granger. I don't think we've met, but I'll get straight to the point. I got your number from the internet. I'm in the business of buying old houses and tearing them down to build mansions. I know, everyone hates what I do, but they don't hate me as much when I give them a check." Granger spoke so fast that Jack didn't have time to react, other than to think that the house wasn't old, it was cozy, and what the hell was he talking about tearing it down? But then his rational mind took over. "Well, I'd like to buy your house so I can tear it down. I would suggest building a shopping center, but I can never guarantee a timeline for new construction, especially with county permits and all. I make all my profit by getting these deals done quickly, and I think I can give you a very good price if you and your wife are interested in selling." Jack had a hard time keeping a Grinch-like smile from spreading across his face. Emily had chosen their house just before they got married. It was an old ranch house, but it had a beautiful yard that was right next to an area of woods with a creek running through it. It was close to major highways, but secluded enough to be peaceful. What absolutely convinced her was the treehouse in the yard across from the master bedroom window. She loved that it was a home ready for children. Jack simply loved the price and the fact that it was only a 20-minute drive to the shipping warehouse where he based his operations, which made moving to the area quite convenient. "Mr. Granger, I will be away for the next few days, so I cannot guarantee access to the property. Call me Sam, and I don't need to see it inside. Like I said, it's a wreck, and I've already checked the outside of the house. Can you meet on Sunday morning?" "Certainly. By the way, I will probably close the deal myself with my wife's power of attorney. She is very busy with work-related matters these days." "No problem. I'll give you the address." Jack noted the address and began to see the outline of the plan. She felt safe with her Boy Scout, didn't she? This is because Emily didn't know that good old Lord Baden-Powell was using military intelligence as a model for what would become his Boy Scouts, skills such as stealth, cunning, and self-confidence. In other words, ambushes. She would never see what happens next until it's too late. But first, reconnaissance. To do this, he put his empty coffee cup on the table and went out to the car to get some privacy. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Frank?" he asked when the call was answered. "I need a favor, and I need it now." Frank Barry was a private detective. During his 5 years of international trade work, Jack made it a point to also do charity work to help underprivileged children with their educational needs. This corresponded to his ideas about the life of a worthy person, and what's more, it gave him real-life connections with people from various walks of life, something his regular job didn't usually provide. One of his business school classmates recommended Frank, who had helped with a nasty stalking case involving a stepfather who had abused his stepdaughter. Frank's evidence got the guy arrested when the police's lackluster response failed, and that evidence led to a quick restraining order. Frank listened as Jack explained what he had learned. "And you think your wife is going to put him in your bed tonight? Is she really that arrogant?" She became very arrogant. She was one of the top traders in her business school class. She thinks she can't make a mistake. "I'll do it myself. I owe you this." The Rivera stalking case brought me all kinds of good publicity. The phone rings constantly. "I appreciate it, Frank. By the way, there's a treehouse in the backyard that you might want to use. Its windows look directly into the master bedroom, and she likes to do things with the curtains open. It used to drive me crazy, but whatever started her engine was accepted, you know? You can get there by crossing the forest and jumping over the stream after dark. No fences and no dogs around. There's a service road on the other side where you can park." "Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to hide a camera outside, pointing it at the front of the house, to keep track of who comes and goes and when." "Great. And you're using Harry for the divorce, right? I'm guessing you want a divorce." "Yes and yes." "Fine. I know how much he likes the affidavit and the reporting process. If you're right, we'll find out pretty soon." Jack then called Harry. "Is this about the business network meeting, Jack? I have already received 5 calls about contributing to their fund." "No, I want to hire you. Emily cheats, and I want to burn her to the ground for it." After Jack filled him in, Harry said, "Come tomorrow. I know it's Sunday, but I still need to sort out some paperwork at the office, so I was getting ready to head out. We might as well take action. It seems that you have already realized that adultery cannot be condoned. Frank already covers the adulterous part with clear and convincing evidence. The hardest part will be simply fighting for a financial settlement. She's also a trader at a big firm, so she'll have the resources to fight and stall, plus people in her firm giving her advice. Leave it to me, Jack. I think we can work this out like civilized people." "That means you're not going to burn her? But okay, we can see what you come up with." His last call was more delicate. "Hello, Maggie. This is Jack." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "Maggie, you son of a... It's nice to talk to you too, honey, after all these years. What do you want, Jack, after all this time?" "I need your help. I thought Emily was your assistant." "It's about Emily. She went on a spree." "What a surprise. I really can't believe it." The sarcasm was dripping from her voice. Stupid. Did you realize that all this is framed in quotation marks? I can't help you emotionally or intimately these days. I am dating. And I'm sure he's a happy guy. Look, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry we fooled around and let it ruin our friendship. I'm also so sorry that I let Emily kick you out of my life when I thought there was a chance that we could be friends again. But now I need your friendly help. What do you need, Jack? He told her. There was silence on the line, then laughter. I agree, she said after she had calmed down, but he could still hear the smile in her voice. You always made me laugh. Thank you, Maggie. When the dust settles, you'll have to introduce me to Mr. Lucky so I can congratulate him on his excellent taste and invite you both to dinner. It's a date, she said. He needed somewhere to hide for a while and plan, so he found an extended stay hotel outside the Beltway in Fairfax, far enough away from his and Emily's usual haunts where he wouldn't risk being seen. He settled in and then went to get something to eat. He wasn't actually hungry, but he knew he needed something in his stomach to fuel the alcohol he planned to drink. A restaurant called the Rusty Anchor was across the street from the hotel. When the host seated him in a booth, he saw that the bartender was looking at him. He seemed vaguely familiar, but Jack put it out of his mind. At the moment, he had enough reason to worry. The menu items indicated that the restaurant was an establishment pretending to be a seafood joint. Most Americans didn't understand the difference. He ordered some inexpensive whiskey with his meal. He knew the hangover the next day would be severe, but he considered the pain part of the cleansing ritual. The waitress returned with a bottle of excellent whiskey from the top shelf. When Jack looked up at the waitress, she simply pointed to the bartender, who saluted him. Jack returned the greeting and poured himself a generous drink as the bartender returned to serving other customers. It took a moment, but Jack remembered who he was. He remembered the bartender as one of the members of the public who attended Rivera's restraining order hearing, as well as the criminal trial that Jack attended. He always sat in the last row, alone. No one ever sat next to him. His client's daughter, Sonia, hugged him one day, but when Jack asked Sonia who it was, she became very quiet and said he was just a family friend. Jack ate in silence, making notes on a notepad and drinking whiskey. After the waitress cleared away his dirty plates, he went to the toilet. He was aware that things seemed to move around as if he were on a ship as he walked. He needed to lean against the wall while he did his business. He then returned to the booth, trying to act as confidently as possible, and found the bartender sitting in his booth on the opposite bench. Mr. Wilson, good to see you, he said, reaching out to take Jack's hand and shake it vigorously. Jack sat down and waited for what the man would say. I never thank you for helping my cousin deal with that man she was married to. Jack tried to argue that it was nonsense and he was just doing the little he could, but the bartender ignored him. He was severely beaten in prison. Did you know about this? Very much. They don't think he'll be able to walk again or eat solid food. The bartender had a small smile on his face as he told Jack this. Jack felt a chill as he looked at the bartender. I didn't hear that, Jack said. The bartender shrugged. This is yesterday's news. What brought you to the Rusty Anchor alone on a Saturday night? Where's your charming wife? Jack looked the bartender straight in the eyes. The bartender was still smiling. It was not a mocking smile, more like a smile that knew a lot. Jack couldn't understand why he asked such a strange question. How did the bartender even know Jack was married? Jack then remembered that Emily had surprised him by showing up at one of the charity events and kissed him after it was over. The bartender must have still been in the ballroom. We have some problems, Jack said. He saw no reason to lie or hide information. Like she's having fun with someone else. Again with the bartender said with a knowing smile. Jack was shocked and fell silent. I'm not a traitor, Mr. Wilson, but I know that if you want to keep a secret, you shouldn't write it down and leave the paper in plain sight, said the bartender, pointing to Jack's notebook. It noted elements of adultery, had a drawing showing Ryan being stabbed to death, contained the name Emily surrounded by a circle with a slash, and had a to-do list that included the phrase, burn it. Jack shrugged. Poor operational security, but at least it didn't give away any sensitive customer data. Any man in your situation should ask himself what he wants. What do you really want, Mr. Wilson? What would you want more than anything in the world, other than money? If you could choose your revenge. Jack didn't hesitate. I want to hit her on the nose so hard that it breaks, and I want to hit her in the face so hard that both her eyes turn black. She has a very beautiful face and very expressive eyes. I want to destroy them. The bartender's smile grew wider. He then chuckled, shaking his head. You, my friend, are not thinking rationally. People who take revenge so cruel end up in prison. You don't want to go to jail, not unless it happens while you're visiting your trading partners, right? The bartender paused and looked slightly at Jack. Jack nodded. But maybe I can help with something. You helped my cousin with her little problem. She could have turned to me for help, but for various reasons, she refused to do so. You, however, stepped in and took care of her. Jack tried to interrupt, but the bartender stopped him. Sure, he asked Frank to gather evidence, but he made the police do all the work. It didn't hurt when Jack asked one of the partners from his firm, a former assistant district attorney from the area, to calmly speak with the prosecutor to make sure the criminal case was getting the proper attention. Jack showed up with his client only to make sure she had proper representation from the prosecutor. His client's restraining order itself was commonplace after her husband was convicted in a criminal case. The bartender brushed off his protests. You must understand that helping ordinary people like my cousin is worthy of attention in itself. I am in your debt on behalf of my family. I always pay back my debts. I think you could use some help. Jack looked at him intently. I'm afraid I don't remember your name. The bartender's smile turned into a shark-like grin. Some people call me the broker. Broker? The bartender nodded. That's what people who don't like me call me. To my friends, I'm Anthony Ricci. Now it was Jack's turn to smile. What should I do to receive a favor from the broker? Sell my soul. The broker's smile disappeared. Jack didn't smile either. Be serious. You are a traitor. You have no soul. His smile returned, and Jack knew he was joking. Call it professional courtesy, Mr. Wilson. Now, just give me your address, your wife's name, and tell me what her daily routine is. What are you going to do? I have several ideas, but what does this phrase sound like? Ignorance is bliss. I think you need to be blissfully unaware and be able to report on your movements over the next few months. Buy yourself a burner phone so we can keep in touch, and leave the number here at the bar, and then don't come back here again. It will be better this way. Jack told the broker about hiring a private investigator, his plans to stay in a hotel until Emily left for France, and Emily's travel plans. The broker knew this hotel in Paris, but did not say from where. Just one question, Mr. Wilson. Is there any chance of reconciliation? Forgiveness? Mercy? I don't want to help. Then later, you change your mind. The broker looked him straight in the eyes. The smile disappeared. His expression became serious. Jack returned his gaze. Jack took a deep breath and paused to check his emotions again. The path was clear. He was a simple guy. Trust and loyalty. These were his most important values. They were gone from his marriage. Emily flipped a switch in his brain, and love was now replaced by hate. Over time, upon reflection, he simply won't care. That time was not now. No one, Jack said. The broker relaxed. Fine. Don't worry about anything. The waitress brought the bill. The broker shooed her away but allowed Jack to tip her generously. He also allowed Jack to take a bottle of whiskey with him, but warned him to slow down. He needed a clear mind for battle. Somehow, Jack woke up at a reasonable hour on Sunday morning without much of a hangover. He arrived at Harry's law office at 10 a.m. and found Frank already there. So sorry, Jack, Frank said. She definitely had him. That guy, in your bed. He was there 2 hours after you called me, and he was still there when I left this morning. We received very good quality video. I made you a copy, but you might not want to watch it. Harry interrupted him. You better not look. I don't want you to do something stupid and get arrested. Don't worry, Jack said, taking the DVD from Frank. Give me the rundown. I climbed into that treehouse, just like you said, and they were all over each other. I got really clear shots of their faces and, frankly, the rest of their bodies. They were clearly having fun. Anyway, I think it's just a physical thing. They hardly spoke. I don't know if this will change your plans. No. How on? They both had great stamina. Thank you. This makes me feel even worse. Sorry. Anyway, I know Emily personally from the party you had last year, so I can identify her. We checked this guy's license plates. It's Ryan Thompson. We know he's working with her at Atlantic Global Trade. We don't know how long this has been going on, but it seems to me that this is clear and convincing evidence. Oh, and we have a camera in a nearby tree filming the driveway and garage, so we can see when they come and go. I will email you a remote link to the live stream on our secure server. I have spoken to Harry, and I'm going to write a report and supporting affidavit for him to file. Sorry again, dude. Frank shook hands with Harry and Jack and left the office. So what do you want to do? Asked Harry. File for divorce on the grounds of adultery, but don't serve her. Harry looked at Jack without any expression. Trust me, Harry. When I hear these words, I get an upset stomach. I don't want you to do anything stupid here. I predict that everything will go more smoothly than you imagine. Harry winced. Look, Harry, just file it on Monday afternoon, right before the court office closes. Let me know the case number. I'll take care of the rest. Just remember, Jack, I don't practice criminal law. Not very good, anyway. If you need to get out of some trouble, I can't help you. You'll be pleasantly surprised, Jack said as he walked out the door. Jack's next stop was to meet Sam Granger. It was a very productive meeting where Jack learned that they could sell the house for over $100,000 more than the mortgage, all without real estate agent commissions. Emily would be delighted if only she knew. Jack promised to return with the proper paperwork as soon as possible to seal the deal. As Jack left Sam's office, he looked at his phone. No messages or calls. She must still be having fun with Ryan. Jack took the opportunity to call his boss, Steve, and tell him that he urgently needed 2 weeks of vacation or he would quit. Steve immediately panicked because Jack was the only one who knew what was going on with the current shipments and agreed. Luckily, in Steve's case, they had a temporary lull in business, so he could cut Jack some slack. Having laid the groundwork for the fulfillment of his intentions, Jack returned to his hotel to take care of his current work. By Monday evening, it was ready. Emily left voicemails on Sunday evening and Monday evening, which he did not respond to. He was saving all his energy for Tuesday morning. Thanks to Frank's camera in front of the house, Jack knew that Ryan had spent Monday night there, and based on Ryan's stay from Sunday evening to Monday morning, he would likely leave around 8 a.m. to head to work. Emily was leaving around 8:30 a.m., so at 7 a.m., Jack walked through the front door and shouted, "Darling, I'm home." He heard a sudden noise upstairs, and then Emily came down the stairs in a robe, disheveled and shocked. "Honey, what a surprise," she said, trying to seem cheerful but barely holding it in, and just as clearly on the verge of complete panic. "I thought you wouldn't be here until Friday. You didn't answer my calls." "Sorry," Jack answered cheerfully. "You know how it happens." Jack pretended not to notice the 2 glasses of wine left in the living room and headed straight to the dining room. Emily stood in the doorway, looking at Jack, trying to figure out her next move and how to stop him from going up the stairs to where Ryan was obviously hiding. A knock on the door made her jump. "Can you open it, honey?" Jack asked. Meanwhile, he began laying out papers on the dining room table and pretended not to notice as Emily squared her shoulders and went to open the door, perhaps expecting the FBI to arrive with the divorce papers. Instead, it was Maggie, who walked right in as soon as Emily opened the door, simply saying, "Hello." Emily watched with curiosity as Maggie sat down at the dining table and opened her briefcase. "Sorry, honey," Jack said, "but I don't know when I'll be in town again. And you know I can't think of you going on a foreign trip without renewing your powers of attorney, you know? Just in case something goes wrong, and we need to deal with some financial or medical emergencies. Oh, and I had a couple of moments over the weekend and got a tip on refinancing my mortgage at a really great rate. Since we are both going to be traveling, I thought this was the only time we would be able to do it. Sorry for the urgency." He tried to look up apologetically. "Who is this?" Emily asked, pointing at Maggie when the artery in her temple stopped pulsing violently. "I'm Maggie," Maggie said, and Emily visibly relaxed. She still had a lover hidden upstairs, but events had not yet completely spiraled out of control. "You, my Boy Scout, always ready," she said with a grin as she sat down, although her eyes were still wary. It's just who I am, honey. He handed Emily a pen and began laying out the papers in front of her. The flags with arrows show you where to sign. Take the time to read the documents if you want. I trust you, Emily said with a wide smile, quickly signing all the papers in front of her. He prayed to God that she would do it because otherwise, he was screwed. But as they say, he who dares wins. As Emily signed each document, Jack laid them out and handed them to Maggie, who lined them up and notarized them. Mrs. Wilson, do you have a photo ID? Asked Maggie. Emily stood up from the table to go get her purse. Maggie and Jack exchanged glances, but both had to quickly look down at the table to keep from laughing. Emily placed her driver's license on the table. Maggie took a photo of them on her phone and noted the details in her notary journal. Emily offered coffee, but both Jack and Maggie declined. As Maggie finished marking the documents she had certified in her book, Jack put everything into separate folders. Emily's eyes continued to look up, waiting for Jack to try to go upstairs, calculating her next move. Maggie left, putting all her things away and giving Jack a smile when Emily wasn't looking. Jack then gave Emily a break by saying he had a conference call to hold and would go down to his basement office to do it. Emily's shoulders relaxed because now she would have time to get Ryan out the door and clear any trace of him before Jack emerged from his man cave again. Jack went downstairs to give her the illusion that she was still fooling him. He pretended he didn't hear the heavy footsteps on the steps as Ryan fled, or the sound of the garage door opening so Ryan's car could leave, but when he heard the sound of the shower running in the master bathroom, Jack gathered everything he had, walked out the basement door, and drove off in his car without saying a word to his loving wife. 2 hours later, after a hearty breakfast at the diner, Jack was in Harry's office. Harry looked shocked. So, you're telling me that you made your wife sign Form CC 1406 confirming the filing for divorce and waiving all future service of process and notice of any future proceedings? Yes, the duly certified form is right here. And so it was. You also telling me that you forced your wife, an experienced trader, to sign a property settlement agreement in which she transfers to you all proceeds from any sale of your home and contents therein, cars, and any jewelry she owns and keeps, and gives you free rein to manage your personal belongings, and allows you both to walk away with the retirement accounts you jointly own without any alimony from you to her. She still earns more than me. According to these documents, she expressed a willingness to leave the marriage with only about $125,000 of her retirement contributions, plus about $200,000 of her student loan debt from business school. Right. She always had a very generous nature. Harry narrowed his eyes at Jack and returned to the papers on his desk. And you also made her sign an affidavit in which she admits to adultery and even admits that her lover was upstairs in the marital bedroom at the time of signing the affidavit and was there all night after having intimacy with her the night before? Are you even telling me that her affidavit supports the truth and accuracy of that line in the email where she talks about staying with her lover because he is better at it? Is this what you want to tell me, Trader Jack? There were no emotions on his face as far as he could restrain himself. Please don't insult me. The documents speak for themselves. Harry looked at the documents, looked up at Jack, started to smile, suppressed a smile, and then turned around in his chair. To hell with this. I will accept this file. You are a respected member of the business community and a friend from business school. How was I supposed to know you did all this? I thought it was legit. Your Honor, I'm deeply confused. I was completely taken aback by the fact that my client had betrayed my trust. If anyone should have his license revoked, it's Jack Wilson, Esquire. Get it? See where I'm going with this? Jack nodded. If necessary, will this notary certify that Emily signed all this? Yes, she will do that. Will she testify that Emily carefully studied the documents? I wouldn't want to try to prejudge or influence anyone's testimony, but as you say, Emily is an experienced trade negotiator, so I'm confident she gave the documents the attention she felt they deserved. I'm sure the notary will say that she saw Emily Wilson go through the documents and sign each one. I cannot otherwise express an opinion about her state of mind regarding her understanding of the contents of each document. Okay, then, said Harry. I'll record all of this today, plus Frank's affidavit and report, which includes photographs and a DVD. I'll see if I can't keep this out of the electronic file for a while. We don't want this to still be in the news, do we? No, said Jack. Emily is going on a trip to Paris in just over 2 weeks. The longer it stays hidden, the better. Do you know anyone in district court? Do you remember Seth? Asked Harry. Student a year after us? He's having trouble finding work at a law firm, so he's now working as a law clerk in the district court, trying to get his resume in order. He could speed up the process, but if the judge wants to take live testimony, the whole thing could collapse under its own weight. Emily will have to decide that she doesn't want to fight this for some reason if she realizes what's going on. If things go badly at this stage, I may have to resign as your lawyer. Fair enough. Someday you will be able to tell me the whole story, but I don't want to hear it now. Over the next 2 weeks, Jack managed to keep Emily at arm's length. He sent her text messages at odd hours, letting her know how busy he was, but otherwise answered her calls. Days passed, and she called less and less. You scared the crap out of her, Frank told him at the end of the week. According to our video footage, Ryan hasn't been in the house since you showed up and surprised them Tuesday morning. I can't tell if they meet at his place during the week or have a night with each other in the office, but they don't do it at home. I'll tell you if anything changes. The only thing that changed was that Jack quietly returned to the house when he learned Emily had left and obtained the financial documents he thought he might need. He also signed a contract to sell the house with Sam Granger. The sale was scheduled to close during Emily's first week in Paris. In the evenings, Jack went to the gym, read in his spare time, and wondered how he got to the point where he was 30 years old with such a chaotic life. I told Steve that I needed to rest for a few more weeks, to which Steve reluctantly agreed. She's having fun with him in the house again, Frank said on Saturday, a week before Emily was due to leave for Paris. Thank you for warning me, Jack replied. He didn't really care, but he knew he would rather burn the sheets than sell them. By this time, Jack had already watched the video Frank gave him the first time. He could see the attraction. Ryan was a couple of years younger, and Frank's investigation revealed that the guy was a regular at the gym, always warming up in front of the mirror before weight training. Otherwise, he was unremarkable. By comparison, Jack was in decent shape, but he certainly didn't have a washboard stomach. Obviously, Emily was looking for any thrill. Jack could have done without such superficiality. Before Jack knew it, Emily was off on her long-awaited trip to Paris. One of Frank's men followed her to the airport and waited until the plane took off for Europe. After receiving the news, Jack went into the house, put all of Emily's clothes in a pile in the living room, and packed everything he wanted to keep. The movers arrived the next day, packed Emily's clothes into boxes, and sent them to a warehouse. They packed Jack's things separately and moved them to the apartment he found thanks to Sam Granger, a skilled house demolition specialist. Jack was able to sell the furniture easily. When the house was finally empty, Jack took one last walk before completing his final task. He carefully collected the wedding photographs and album, as well as Emily's wedding dress. He took them to the patio fire pit that was directly underneath the treehouse, carefully placing the photos and album in the pit on top of the charcoal. He added the dress and some lighter fluid and lit a match. After it all burned down, Jack was pleased to see that the video actually had a lot of detail. You could even see details of their memorable moments together in each photo as it was added to the pit. A day later, Jack completed the sale of his family home, using a power of attorney from his wife to sign as her attorney-in-fact. She really should have read everything she signed. With a separate financial power of attorney, Jack was able to deposit the home sale proceeds check into his personal account, pre-certified on behalf of his wife as her attorney-in-fact, and closed the joint accounts. 3 days later, still in the first week of Emily's trip to Paris, a construction crew leveled the house. They cleared the rubble in a few days. After this, work began on preparing the site. Unfortunately, the tree with the house, which was ideal for children, had to be removed. There was a gazebo planned for the new site. Unfortunately, at the moment when the entire place where Jack and Emily once had a happy home turned into just a large square of land, construction stopped. Looks like something went wrong with the permitting process. Jack and a friend from business school who worked in the county permitting department were confident that the problem would resolve itself within a couple of days after Emily returned home from France, once the appropriate forms were received and approved. During all this time, Jack did not answer a single call from Emily. He stopped texting her, didn't respond to emails, and didn't respond to voicemails. Some of her friends and relatives called. Jack sent a quick message back saying he was busy and traveling, mostly so they wouldn't try to drive by the house and see him. The broker called him on his prepaid cell phone and told him that Emily and Ryan seemed to be under stress and weren't looking well. Maybe she suspected something was wrong. Jack asked how he knew this. The broker only said that he has friends everywhere, even in Europe. He did ask Jack if he would be interested in returning Emily's wedding and engagement rings. When Jack said no, the broker asked if he would mind if someone else bought them. Hell no, Jack replied. On Wednesday, 2 days before Emily was due to return from Paris, Jack was in Harry's office. I don't know how the hell this happened, but here's the divorce decree. This is much faster than usual for this type of case, and Seth remains silent. I don't want to know, and I don't ask. Count your lucky stars and congratulate yourself on being single again. Here's the copy I'm going to send to your ex-wife. I'm sure she'll be delighted. As Jack approached his car outside Harry's office, his phone rang. He didn't recognize the number, but when he answered, he recognized the broker's voice. Jack, you should take a vacation right now. Go to a place where there are a lot of people who know you and can tell you we're there. The broker hung up. Jack realized that it had been a long time since he had seen his college friends who lived in New York. 2 hours later, after packing a bag, Jack was on his way to the Big Apple. Just to be clear, Harry said as they sat down in his office the following Monday, I ended our attorney-client relationship immediately after I gave you the divorce decree. I notified you by registered mail. Perhaps you haven't checked your mailbox yet. Not yet, Jack admitted. It's a serious storm, my friend, said Harry. More like a typhoon. I like it. Lots of destruction. Harry finished his bourbon and immediately asked for more. You start, Frank. So, on Monday morning, the former Mrs. Wilson arrived at her old house with her parents. We never got around to removing the external camera. When she saw the vacant lot, she had a complete breakdown. She fell to her knees, sobbing, and assumed the fetal position, and ended with her kicking and screaming like a toddler at the mall. Late in the afternoon, then a work crew arrives with equipment, and she goes crazy again. She loses her composure for the third time when the construction workers see what is tattooed on her face and start laughing. And this despite the fact that she has raccoon eyes from the beatings, plus a Band-Aid on her broken nose. Harry picked up the story. That afternoon, she and a couple of lawyers from her large firm showed up at my modest office in a menacing mood. They didn't have an appointment, so I made them wait 25 minutes. I made sure my Glock was loaded and on my desk. Thank God we're in Virginia, you know? 25 minutes later, they are all yelling at me, talking about urgent motions, bar complaints, and contempt proceedings. I have to admit that I had a hard time not looking at the tattoos all over her face. This was done very clearly in red and blue ink so that it could be seen from a distance. When I was able to refocus, I asked what exactly the problem was, which statement in either statement was false. They all stopped and looked at each other. So I asked if there was any controversy about your ex-wife committing adultery. They all said yes. So I played a video that I prepared while they were waiting for good old Emily, apparently bouncing up and down on someone who is not her husband in the marital bed. Obviously, they hadn't looked through everything in the case file yet. Then they all just looked confused. Emily then starts screaming that you didn't even give her a chance to explain herself. And I said you don't care what the reason is, you just did it. She comes to her senses and starts talking about how she never agreed to let you sell the house. And what was the story with you burning her wedding dress, photos, and album? All these things were her personal property. I showed her copies of the powers of attorney, one of which was for the specific purpose of selling the house. I showed her the property settlement agreement, which gave you the right to dispose of her personal belongings at your sole discretion, and told her that she was lucky to have her clothes. I asked if she denied that it was her signature on the documents. She said no, but that she never agreed with anything that was written there. So then I asked if her whole defense was that she never read what she signed. I asked her to imagine how cross-examination would go if she challenged anything in court. Then she fell silent. I also pointed out the affidavit she signed where she admitted that her lover was upstairs at the very moment she signed, and I asked if that was true. This was the moment when she lost consciousness. Her entourage tried to revive her, but I had already called 911. She refused to go with them to the hospital, but then she started screaming about tattoos and her boyfriend getting beat up, and I said it had nothing to do with you, as far as I know. You were out of town, anyway, and maybe Ryan pissed off some husband, either another husband having intimacy with her or some other woman who thought Emily was taking Ryan away from her. I told them they knew where the police department was if they had a criminal case they wanted to discuss. Then things got even better, Harry continued. So they still kept talking about filing a motion for reconsideration and all that kind of stuff. That's when I told them that just that morning, I had received an anonymous email with links to several videos of Emily and Ryan in your bed when they started doing it again before the trip to Paris. The message said that the videos would be sent to everyone Emily knew and that you, Jack, knew nothing about it and could not stop them from doing it, and that they were friends that you once helped, and that they will protect you, and that they would hit the send button that day if she didn't just let the whole thing go. Do you know anything about this? I was out of town, Harry. After that, they left. I haven't heard anything about them since then, and nothing happened in the courthouse. It was Frank's turn again. They must have called the police because a couple of detectives showed up. They wanted copies of the videos and the report. Then they lost interest. Neither Emily nor Ryan could say what happened, only that they got into a taxi at the airport, and the next thing the guy knew, he was in the hospital with Emily. She woke up in a dirty hotel, got hit in the face, and then went to the hospital. The room was also billed to her credit card, plus room service and minibar. This time, Jack told them that the hotel manager had said that New York cops had checked out his stay at the hotel and that his New York friends had been contacted as well, but they vouched for his very active schedule in the city. Rumor has it, Harry said, that your ex is hiding in her parents' basement while she gets laser tattoo removal. The problem is that they charge per square inch, and it's covered from head to toe. It would have to cost tens of thousands of dollars, and still, the marks would remain with her forever. It's a shame, Jack said. Harry stared at Jack. Frank simply pursed his lips to keep from laughing. What happened to her lover? I understand that he was badly hurt, said Harry. There will be a lot of physical therapy in his future. The head is slightly damaged, multiple concussions. He will likely have some difficulty getting another job as a logistics manager. Their firm also released them both. It seems their relationship fell apart during the trip, and somehow this negatively affected the entire trade expo. There were not enough import documents, shipping declarations were not ready, Chinese suppliers had problems. They lost several major contracts. The clients were unhappy. The firm had to make human sacrifices to retain the clients for future work. Someday, Jack, you'll have to tell us how you managed to cope with this, Frank said. Dealt with what? I'm a Boy Scout. Maggie was waiting in the car when he got out. I'm a little upset no one asked me if I actually certified the documents or if she read them before signing. I was willing to say that I watched her study each one before signing, but I couldn't estimate how much time she spent on it. We should discuss this over dinner. I need to treat you and your boyfriend to thank you for helping me gain my freedom. Maggie turned to him and looked over her sunglasses as Jack reversed the car out of the parking lot. There's no guy, idiot. Jack stopped abruptly and looked at her. Really? Indeed. Now shut up and take me home so you can begin the rather long and grueling process of apologizing to me. Oh, okay, Jack smiled. But first, I have to stop by the post office. For what? I'm sending a card to an old friend, Jack said, pulling it out of the glove compartment. It had the Boy Scouts logo on the front. I asked her, does she feel safe now?